Hello and welcome to the IDF State Advocacy Workshop for South Carolina. I'm Jamie Sexton and we're really excited to have you joining us, and we look forward to your advocacy on October 27th in your state legislature. In order to influence policy in South Carolina, you must first be familiar with the policymaking process in your state. The South Carolina State Legislature is a bicameral body consisting of two chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives. There are 124 members in your House of Representatives and 46 members that serve in your Senate. Senators are elected at the same time as U.S. presidential elections and serve 4-year terms. Representatives are elected at the same time as U.S. congressional elections and serve 2-year terms. South Carolina is what is called a part-time legislature, which means legislators tend to have other jobs in addition to their legislative duties. The legislature convenes for 2-year terms, and this term is split into 2 annual sessions. The legislature convenes each session on the second Tuesday in January and must adjourn by the second Thursday of May. This means that the 2021 session that began on January 12th adjourned on May 13th, but the 124th General Assembly, of which the 2021 session was the first half of, will end on May 12th of 2022, after which a new General Assembly or term will begin. It's important to note that legislation carries over from one session to the next, but not from one term to the next. Next, we'll go through the legislative process in South Carolina of how a bill becomes a law. Many of you are probably familiar with Schoolhouse Rock, so much of this will sound familiar. First and foremost, a bill is introduced. A legislator is brought an idea of something they think could better their community or residents of the state, and they decide that it should become law. They have this idea drafted as a piece of legislation, also called a bill. First, the bill is introduced and gets its first reading. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's read orally on the floor of the Chamber of Origin. The Chamber of Origin is either the Senate or the House, depending on if the legislation is being introduced by a senator or representative. Once a bill has been read, it is then referred to a committee for review. The committee then considers the bill, which may entail a public hearing. This would be your opportunity to engage in the legislative process. Public hearings on a bill are open to anyone and everyone with an opinion on how a piece of legislation could impact them or others in their community, and they can make their voice heard. This is where IDF typically encourages our advocates to engage. Next, if the bill passes successfully through the committee, it then moves on to second reading in the Chamber of Origin to consider the standing committee's recommendations on the bill. The bill then moves to third reading in the Chamber of Origin, where a vote is taken on the legislation. If it passes third reading, it is then referred to the other chamber, where the 3-reader process is repeated. If it passes successfully through that chamber, it then moves on. If the second chamber amends the legislation, it is returned to the Chamber of Origin to consider those amendments. If changes made in the second chamber are rejected, it is sent to a conference committee to resolve the differences between the 2 versions. Once the bill passes out of the legislature successfully, it then goes to the governor, who can take a few different actions that lead to the bill becoming a law. We'll discuss those actions on the next slide. So who is the governor in South Carolina? The governor of South Carolina is Henry McMaster. The governor is the head of the executive branch. As we discussed, all bills that pass through your state legislature go to the governor, who can sign the bill into law, allow it to become law without their signature, or veto it. Upon receipt of a bill, the governor has 5 days, Sundays excluded, during legislative session to approve or disapprove a law. If not signed within 5 days, it becomes law, or it can be vetoed by the governor, which then sends the bill back to the General Assembly, where it is either sustained or they override the veto. Override requires a 2/3 vote of members present. The bill would then become law in that way. The next person in a position of importance for your legislative process is James Lucas, who is the Speaker of the House. The Speaker is the highest ranking officer in the House of Representatives and is elected by the House members themselves. You elect your representatives, and your representatives elect who leads their chamber. Lastly, we have the Speaker's counterpart in the Senate, also called the Senate President. In South Carolina, that individual is Harvey Peeler Jr. Like the Speaker of the House, the Senate President presides over their respective chamber. They also oversee the appointment of committee members, assignment of bills, and progress of legislation through the chamber. As you can imagine, these individuals hold great power in the legislative process of your state. Now that we've talked about your legislature's makeup and the legislative process of how a bill becomes a law in your state, let's get into what you're going to be discussing with legislators on October 27th. Fortunately, what you'll be discussing with legislators is something you're all already experts in, your personal experience as a South Carolinian living with PI. This will help ensure the unique needs and interests of those in the PI community are understood and considered by state policymakers. As I'm sure you all know, PI is a group of more than 400 rare chronic disorders in which part of the body's immune system functions improperly and affects people across all ages, genders, races, ethnicities, and socioeconomic statuses. In the US, there are an estimated 250,000 people diagnosed with PI, including an estimated 3,800 in South Carolina. This estimate does not include the thousands of undiagnosed individuals, considering PI is a rare and often misdiagnosis, with the average time between onset of symptoms and diagnosis being 9 to 15 years. About half of individuals with PI aren't diagnosed until adulthood. Individuals affected by PI face many barriers, including difficulty receiving a proper diagnosis, treatment, and specialized healthcare, as well as difficulties financing healthcare, finding educational materials, and locating others who share their experiences. You may have seen from our previous events this year that we're focusing our 2021 state advocacy workshops on the creation of rare disease advisory councils. A rare disease advisory council, or RDAC, is a body with the purpose of giving individuals with rare diseases, like those with primary immunodeficiency, a voice in their state government. There are over 7,000 rare diseases, including over 400 primary immunodeficiencies. This means it's very difficult for state policymakers to have a full understanding of the rare disease community as a whole and the issues relevant to it. This lack of understanding by state policymakers contributes to common obstacles that I'm sure are very familiar to those of you watching this training, including delays in diagnosis, misdiagnosis, lack of treatment options, high out-of-pocket costs, and limited access to medical specialists. RDACs help bridge these gaps in knowledge by serving as an advisory body and liaison between the rare disease community and state governments, helping to evaluate and offer recommendations on health-related policies and issues. The movement to establish rare disease advisory councils in every state has gained significant momentum since the first council was established by North Carolina in 2015. Since that time, a total of 20 states have established their own RDACs, as you can see, including South Carolina. Fortunately, South Carolina's Rare Disease Advisory Council was signed into law this summer. While details are still being determined with regard to makeup and logistics of the council, it's exciting to know that your state has taken this monumental step for all South Carolinians living with a rare disease. Because the South Carolina Rare Disease Advisory Council has already been signed into law and decision makers are quite busy sorting out details of its establishment, we will be focusing our day of action on educating legislators on a disease space they are likely not familiar with. Many legislators, as we discussed, have a gap in knowledge when it comes to rare disease communities, including ours. We want to fill that gap on October 27th and talk to them about what people like you in their community deal with every single day in South Carolina. You will be laying groundwork on which your state's RDAC will build once fully established. What are some important points to make when you're talking with legislators? You're going to want to talk about the fact that primary immunodeficiencies are a group of more than 400 rare chronic disorders in which a person's immune system functions improperly. There are approximately 250,000 people in the country who are diagnosed with PI and thousands more that go undiagnosed. In South Carolina alone, there are an estimated 3,800 individuals living with PI. You're also going to want to talk about the barriers people with PI typically face. We've discussed a few examples during this training: improper diagnosis, difficulty receiving treatment, trouble financing healthcare, etc. These are all points worth mentioning, but as Becca will touch on a bit more later, we encourage you to discuss barriers you've personally faced. You'll also want to touch on the fact that PI is a rare and often misdiagnosis, and that the average time for diagnosis to be obtained is 9 to 15 years. Again, you'll want to personalize this and discuss your own path to diagnosis. And lastly, it's important to highlight that many individuals with PI will require lifelong IG therapy to live productive, healthy lives, and that even with treatment, lifelong medical monitoring is essential. If you forget any of these points, don't worry. IDF has created a handout with this information available in your participant portal for your viewing before and during your legislative meetings. The handout will also be emailed to your elected representatives with whom you'll be meeting, so they'll be able to reference them during your meetings as well. Now that we've touched on what you'll be discussing with legislators on October 27th, Becca Russ is going to give you some tips for effective advocacy for your day of action.
Thanks, Jamie. So as Jamie said, I just want to walk you through some high points of effective advocacy so that you can be as successful as possible during your meetings on October 27th. So first, let's just go through some information about your legislative meetings that you'll be having during the day of action. So prior to the actual day of action, these are just a few things that you want to be checking off your to-do list leading up to October 27th. So first, be sure to review the provided materials on the South Carolina State Workshop webpage. So this training video is one of those materials. And then we also, under step 2, have extended information about what you'll be discussing with your legislators. So Jamie gave a really great overview of that information as well as some talking points. But if you want to get a little more in the weeds on what you're going to be discussing, there's great information on that page as well. Additionally, be sure to review your schedule of meetings before that day of action rolls around as well. So you will be receiving an email from both me and Advocacy Associates that will include information on how to access and view your schedule. So just be sure when you get that email to go online, check out your schedule, and just make sure that you don't have any conflicts and that you'll be able to attend those meetings. Also just wanted to mention, if you don't receive an email about your schedule of meetings by October 22nd, which is the Friday before the day of action, feel free to please reach out to us directly and we'll make sure that you get that email so you can view your schedule. And then lastly, on everyone's schedule, you will be joined by at least one other advocate in your meeting. So we usually try to pair individuals up so that everyone has a buddy when they're meeting with their legislators. So when you are viewing your schedule and you see the other person that's going to be in your meetings, we really encourage you to go ahead and reach out to those group members and coordinate with them before the day of action. So as you will see later when we do the overview of your online portal, there's actually a chat function that is really great within that portal that you can just directly chat with those other individuals. So really encourage you to reach out to them, just get to know each other a little bit before that day of action. Alrighty, so the day of action is here. What should you be doing before your legislative meetings begin? So firstly, be sure to be joining those meetings about 5 to 10 minutes early. So we always encourage everyone to hop on, at least 5 minutes early, just to give you time to get prepared, make sure all your technology is in working order, and coordinate with any other advocates that may be joining you for the meeting as well. Additionally, during that time that you're joining the meeting early, this is a great opportunity to designate a call leader for the meeting. And this is essentially the person who's going to be guiding that call as you meet with the office. So in each meeting, one individual will be an actual constituent of that office. So really encourage that individual to be the leader so they can speak directly with their representatives. And then lastly, before your meetings begin, go ahead and identify the name of either the staff person or the legislator that you'll be meeting with. It's just always really good idea to go into those meetings knowing who's going to be on the other end of the line or the screen. All right, so during your legislative meetings, these are a few things that you want to check off your list as you're talking to your officials. So start off those meetings by just clearly introducing the participants and explaining the mission of IDF. And that's where this call leader is going to come in, guide the call, and kind of kick off the instructions. Additionally, the person that you're meeting with, allow them to introduce themselves as well. It's always nice to kind of start off that meeting, getting to know each other a little bit before you jump into the issues. So once you've introduced each other, go ahead and just dive right into the issue that you're advocating for. So Jamie provided you some great talking points. There's more information on the website as well, and there will be some within your online portal. So just go ahead and dive right in. Make sure you're hitting those talking points during your meeting as you're advocating. And then additionally, make sure you are sharing personal experiences or stories that emphasize the importance of this issue. So, we always say that that's a huge part of advocating, is showing how this is impacting real people like you and putting a face on these issues. Additionally, always offer IDF as a resource. So there are a lot of times things that come up that, advocates might not know, or just offices simply want to get more information or have questions or whatnot. So always offer us as a resource. We are always here for those offices if they have any questions or anything like that. And then lastly, always say thank you and just show your appreciation for the meeting. Alrighty, so the day of action is finished. Your meetings went great. What should you be doing after your legislative meetings have concluded? So in your online portal, which we are doing an overview of later in the training, you will have access to the contact information of the staff and the members that you met with, even after the day of action. So we ask that you use this information to send out a thank you letter to these offices. We'll get into that when we do the overview, but it's a very simple process. We have a pre-written sample letter for you to send, which you're of course welcome to personalize if you'd like. And not only is sending a thank you note polite, but it also allows you to present the information that you shared again and keeps IDF and issues for the PI community at the top of their minds. Also, after your legislative meetings conclude, we ask that you help us do our follow-up as well by providing thorough meeting notes about your meetings in your online portal. So, just give us an overview of how that meeting went. Was it positive? Did they have any interest in specific facts or issues? Were there any questions, or did they request any kind of information from you? Just include any of that kind of information in your meeting notes, and that helps us follow up these offices as needed. So thank you in advance for taking those meeting notes. And then generally just some virtual meeting pointers to be keeping in mind. So prior to the call, make sure that whatever technology you're using, whether it's a cell phone or laptop, is in working order. Additionally, make sure you are in a quiet location and that all of your other electronics are either muted or turned off, so there's no background noise. Additionally, as with any meeting, avoid multitasking and stay 100% focused on the meeting. Be courteous and speak clearly into your phone or laptop. And then last but not least, don't forget to say thank you. So now that we have gone through a little information about your meetings and a little bit of the logistics for the day of action, I also wanted to provide some general advocacy tips and tricks that you can use not only on October 27th, but in any future advocacy that you may do with IDF. So as you're advocating for the community, the most important thing to remember is that your voice matters. So you have tools that lobbyists just don't have access to, which is your real personal stories and experiences. And essentially, by sharing your real experiences, you can demonstrate just how these policies and laws are going to impact the real lives of people like you. So you're really putting a face on the issue. Additionally, when you present, your story and make your voice heard with your legislators and their staff, these officials see that you have concerns that need to be addressed and that they have value. And then additionally, sharing your story, making your voice heard is good in itself, but it also allows you to create personal connections with your legislators and their staff as you're sharing your personal experiences. And that's a great thing to have a connection with your members, but it also may make them more inclined to support issues that they may not have considered in the past. So that's always a great outcome as well. And then lastly, just remember that as a constituent and a voter, legislators have a vested interest in addressing your concerns. So making your voice heard, talking about your personal experiences, it's a win-win for everyone involved. And then just some tips to keep in mind as you're telling your story virtually, which is pretty much how we are advocating these days. So when telling your story virtually, it's really important to use your own authentic voice, especially when you're sharing personal experiences. Also, during telling your story virtually, be sure to share clear, logical arguments that help make a solid and persuasive case for the issue that you're advocating for. Also, tell a true story and use personal examples to put a face on the issue. Ask for the outcome that you want. You want that person to leave the meeting knowing exactly what you're asking them to do. Lastly, but not least, thank them for their time. So if after the day of action and participating in this workshop, you think to yourself that you would really like to get involved in more IDF advocacy, we have a few ways here that you can get involved that we just wanted to share with everyone. So there are a lot of different methods and forms to advocating for people with PI. But these are just a few of the ways that you can engage. So the first is what you'll be doing on the day of action, which is sharing your stories and experiences with policymakers. Can't emphasize that enough. Also testifying at hearings, working with other patient organizations, mobilizing other members of the PI community, which is always a great thing. Strength in numbers is a really important aspect. Responding to action alerts, that's a really quick and approachable way to get in touch with your legislators. And then good old-fashioned emailing, writing, and calling your officials to just urge them to take action on issues that are affecting the PI community. Additionally, we wanted to highlight that, in this virtual world that we're now living in, there are a lot of downsides, but one really good side to virtual advocacy is it's really easy to schedule a virtual legislative visit. Obviously people aren't limited by time and geography as much as they are during in-person advocacy. So we just laid out here some information and a few steps. If you're interested in scheduling a virtual legislative visit, these are some things that you can kind of follow to do so. And of course, we are always here to assist with that if you're interested in scheduling a visit in the future. And then, of course, wanted to present some of the other ways that you can get involved, including some of our advocacy events. So many of you may be familiar with our annual IDF Advocacy Day, and this is when our volunteers advocate to Congress for the federal issues that impact the PI community. So as you can see in the photo here, that often entails going to Washington, D.C. and meeting with members of Congress in the Capitol itself, which is really exciting. Also, we have our health access advocates who are a huge asset to our team. These are individuals who advocate for the PI community in their home state and really help keep us updated on what's going on across the country. As you know, we have our state advocacy workshops that we do every year. We also have our IDF action alerts, which I mentioned, and this is a really great way to get mobilized and reach out to your policymakers about both federal and state issues. And then lastly, we have our advocacy playlist. And this is essentially a playlist of videos that are meant to educate both the PI community and the broader public about different issues that are impacting the PI community. So if you're interested in that, would really encourage you to check that out. Some of those videos are really great. And then lastly, just want to encourage everyone, if you aren't already, to sign up for IDF action alerts. So as I said before, this is a really accessible and streamlined way to advocate to your legislators about issues. So it's a super simple process. You just go to our action alert page, which the URL is right there. Click sign up for action alerts. And then under quick sign up, all you have to do is put in a few little bits of information. And once you press save, you will begin receiving our alerts. So just go ahead and make your voice heard and sign up for action alerts. All right, so now that we have presented you with information about your state legislature, as well as information about what you'll be discussing during your meetings and some tips for effective advocacy, we are going to turn it over to Lincoln Clapper from Advocacy Associates, and he's going to provide all of you with a great overview of the online portal that you'll be using during the Day of Action on October 27th.
Hello, and welcome to the Advocacy Associates online schedules and logistics overview training. This short video will be walking you through how to navigate your online schedules for your virtual advocacy day. Now, at a to-be-determined date by your organization, you will receive an email from our team that will come from advocacyday@advocacyassociates.com, highlighted here in green. And within that email will be a unique link to your individual schedule, and that's highlighted here in red. Simply just click on that schedule and you'll be automatically logged into your dashboard for your meetings. If you have not received this email from us by that to-be-determined date from your organization, please check your spam or junk folder. It more than likely is sitting in that area. If you do find it in your spam or junk folder, please unmark it as spam, as this will be our main way of communicating with you in terms of time changes, scheduling updates. All communication will be coming through over email, and so we want to make sure you're getting that correspondence. Now, if at some point you become logged out of your schedule, you will end up at a login page that will look very similar to this. And you may be inadvertently become logged out. You may accidentally log yourself out. Regardless, if you do end up at a login page like this, don't panic. Just simply click on the Send Me a Sign-in Link button located here on the home page. Don't try to enter a username or password. Just click on the Send Me a Sign-in Link button here, and then input the email address that you registered for this event with. Once you've done that, just click the Send Email button and you'll receive a new refreshed link to your schedule. Now, if you're still having trouble accessing your schedule at that point, please go to the Support tab located on the home page. From there, you can indicate, again, that you're having trouble accessing your schedule. Fill out this questionnaire. It will go directly to the development team, and then they will be in touch with you individually to get that issue resolved. Now, once you're logged into your schedule, you'll see a home page that will look very similar to this. All of the confirmed meetings will be displayed with a time. That's how you'll know those meetings are confirmed. They'll be on the top part of your page. Anything that's still pending that our team's working on will be displayed as TBD. As those meetings become confirmed, you will get a notification email from our system letting you know that that meeting has been confirmed, and you'll see it slotted into your schedule appropriately next time you get into your schedule. Now, please note all times that you see on your schedule will be displayed in the time zone that you are physically located in. And so this will adjust throughout the various time zones depending on where and when you're viewing your schedule. But the point is, nobody will have to do any time conversions. So when you log into your schedule, you will see the times displayed in the time zone you are physically located in when viewing that schedule. Now, in order to access the content for each meeting, just click on any part of that module there, and you'll be launched into that specific meeting dashboard. You'll see something that will look very similar to this. Again, at the top will be the date and time for your meeting, followed by who you're going to be speaking with in that office, whether it's the staff, member of Congress, or both. If a meeting lead has been assigned to your meeting by your organization, you will see that person's name displayed here. If not, then this area will be blank. Now, in order to access the video component for your meeting, just click on that Join Online Meeting button. 99% of the time, this will open up the Zoom platform, which is what we utilize for our projects. There are some offices that prefer to use Teams or WebEx, etc. They may be supplying their own technology. The same concept applies. Just click on that green Join Online Meeting button, and it will open up the video component for you. Now, there are a few offices based on their office policy that do not use video at all. So in those cases, there will be a disclaimer on this button letting you know that the meeting is audio only. Now, if you're only able to join via audio or dial-in, Just follow the instructions in this area, enter the access code when prompted, and you'll be launched into that meeting via dial-in. All of your talking points will be displayed in the upper right-hand corner in this module. All of the documents that have been provided to you by your organization will be in this module. Simply click on each tab. It will open up that document in a separate tab where you can have your schedule, your documents, and your Zoom platform or your video platform all over at the same time to navigate between the three. The attendee section will list all the attendees who are in that meeting. If you only see your name in this section, that means you are the only attendee in that meeting. There also may be some contact information for the additional attendees, such as the company they work for, their email or phone number. If that's not displayed, you can also contact each other through our peer-to-peer chat function. Simply click on that blue chat bubble next to their name, and you can send a direct message to another advocate through our system. If somebody does try to message you through this mechanism, you will get a notification about that from the portal. On the left-hand side is our report form area. The first one is the check-in feature. Simply check this button, letting us know that you've checked in. You can do it either before or after the meeting concludes. We'll be sending this attendance report to your organization after your event. So please make sure to check that button again, either before or after your meeting concludes. Beneath that is an option to send a thank you email to the office once the meeting does conclude. You can open this in one of two ways. Click that blue open email button at the top. That'll pull up whatever your native platform is on your laptop or device. So for example, I use Outlook. If I were to click on that button, it would pull up an automated Outlook email for me. Now you can of course use any platform you prefer. So if you use Gmail or Yahoo or something like that that's more web-based, you can copy that information with those three copy clipboard buttons beneath it, and then paste it into your Gmail or Yahoo, etc., and send from one of those email clients. The meeting report form will display feedback questions that your organization would like you to answer. So please go through one by one, answer those accordingly. And when you click submit at the bottom, you'll be taken back to the home page. You'll do this for each meeting on your schedule. And this is a very important information that your organization is trying to acquire. So please do take some time and answer this report form after each meeting concludes. Beneath that is an option to take notes. This is essentially just a blank notepad if you do not have pen or paper handy. So rather than using a Word document or maybe an email draft to take notes on, you can use this module. It's optional. You don't need to utilize it. It's really just an extra resource for you. Beneath that is an option to select whether the member of Congress attended or did not attend. This is really just to help get an accurate reporting on the member level rate. For those of you that have done this type of event before, you know the member of Congress may get pulled away to votes, so they're stuck in a committee hearing and they're not able to meet, even though you were scheduled to meet with them. So again, it helps get a very accurate accounting on which members of Congress participated. Then lastly, for you social media fans, you can access your Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn through this platform as well. You just will be prompted to log in if you're not already logged in, and you can drop a post on any of those platforms. Once your meeting concludes, just click on the Meetings tab in the upper left corner. That'll take you back to the home page where you can navigate your way to that next meeting on your schedule. The Legislators tab will take you to an area where you can view bios for each member of Congress you're meeting with, such as this. It'll also have links to all of their social media pages as well, if you'd like to explore those further. If your organization is tracking any particular bills for your event, you'll see that bill information displayed here. If those bills have been voted on by that member, you will see that member's vote history on that bill as well on the bottom. If you're not tracking any relevant bills for your event, then this area will be blank. The News tab will pull any relevant news articles they've been mentioned in. You can read about those on your free time. And the Committees tab will display all the committee assignments that member of Congress serves on. The last three options on the top menu bar are the Messages tab. That's where you can view those direct peer-to-peer messages between yourself and other advocates. The Directory is a master directory for everyone in the event, so you can contact anyone outside of your meetings. And the support tab, as I mentioned in the beginning, will be your best friend for anything and everything support, whether it's technical support, scheduling support, anything at all. Please visit the support tab and we'll make sure to get in touch with you as soon as possible. The More tab is basically just a drop-down menu of all the content that's already been reviewed and just a way to access it from the home page. And you can see how that operates when you get into your dashboard. Last slide here, I just want to review some relevant information and reminders to keep handy. Again, if you haven't gotten that email from us by that to be determined date by your organization, please check your spam or junk folder first. Ensure it has landed up there. If you do find it there, please unmark it as spam. Sometimes you may need our domain in your email settings to unmark us, and so you can use @advocacyassociates.com. We're asking everybody to call or get into the video portion of their meeting 5 minutes prior to the start time on your schedule. This is really just to ensure that you're touch base with everybody in your group, and also more importantly, just to make sure everyone's present when the office joins. That way the meeting can start right on time. All times on your schedule, again, are shown in the time zone you are located in when viewing your schedule. And so this will adjust if you are in New York today and you travel to California tomorrow. Your schedule will automatically adjust accordingly. So you do not need to do any time conversions. You will get a reminder email from us 1 hour prior to each meeting throughout the course of the day. And this will also include a link to your schedule. So this will make it real easy for you to get in and out of the portal. If an office doesn't join your meeting within 10 minutes past the start time, please contact us. We will have a help number listed in the support tab to call us for any time-sensitive issues like that. Members and staff sometimes run late just like the rest of us. So please do give them a 10-minute buffer to join before letting us know. Please recognize these meetings may go anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. So prepare your pitch and talking points accordingly. A great tip is to just ask the office in the very beginning of the meeting, how much time do they have, which will help steer you in the right direction. Any changes to your schedule the day of the event, again, will be sent via email. So keep an eye on your email throughout the day and make sure you're checking that regularly. Make sure you're in an area with good Wi-Fi connection, as again, most, if not all of your meetings will have a video capability to them. Please mute your microphone whenever you're not speaking. And lastly, just know your audience. Ensure you have an appropriate background as you'll be speaking with both Republicans and Democrats throughout the course of the day. So that concludes the training, and we look forward to you having a successful event.
Great, thanks, Lincoln. That was a really great overview of the online platform. So before we sign off, just wanted to throw out there that if anyone has any questions whatsoever, whether it be about some of the content that we presented in the training, about your online portal, about your meetings, anything like that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Here is our contact information. Both my email and Jamie's email are listed here. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us, even after the day of action. If you have any questions about advocacy or any other opportunities, we would be happy to hear from you. So thank you again for joining us for the training, and happy advocating.